Okay, well, Ontario's Premier Doug Ford was on an American network, CNBC, earlier this hour, pushing back on the tariffs threat. That breaking news this morning that the threat against aluminum and steel will be doubled. So for more, I want to bring in the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick. Megan, let's talk about what we heard from the Ontario Premier as he appeared on U.S. networks.
Yeah, a couple different networks, Arthi. He's been on MSNBC, CNBC, and CNN this morning, and giving his reaction to what we're hearing from President Donald Trump, who is reacting to the plan unveiled by Premier Ford yesterday. And that plan is to impose a 25%, what amounts to a 25% surcharge on electricity that Ontario sells to Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. Ford held a news conference about this yesterday. This amendment to how that power is sold went into effect immediately. And Doug Ford saying that he's willing to increase that surcharge even higher, depending on what happens with this tariff war between Canada and the U.S., and possibly escalate even further to cutting off electricity totally to those three states that Ontario provides it to. Now, this morning on these U.S. networks, given what Trump is saying this morning, Ford was asked for his reaction, Arthi, and he's saying he does not intend to back off this retaliatory move that Ontario has taken, that they will stand firm and they will keep taking these kinds of responses until the tariffs are totally off the table from President Trump. Ford calling this an unprovoked attack on our country. And trying to make the case really to Americans on these American networks, pointing out that the markets are volatile, telling them that prices are going to go up. All the negative effects of this tariff war is the message that Ford is trying to push. He was asked, are you really willing to cut the power off? Here's his response.
I want to send more electricity down to the U.S., to our closest allies or our best neighbors in the world. I want to send more electricity. Is it a tool in our toolkit? 100%. And as he continues to hurt Canadian families, Ontario families, I won't hesitate to do that. That's the last thing I want to do. I apologize to the American people. There's one person to be blamed, and that's President Trump. There's one person to be blamed if we go into a recession. It will be called the Trump recession, no one else.
And he's saying in these interviews that he just doesn't understand why Trump is attacking the U.S.'s closest ally. And he was encouraging Americans, Arthi, to speak up out about the impact of these tariffs. And he also called on CEOs of major U.S. companies to get a backbone, he said, and try and pressure Trump as well to back off these tariffs. Now, he was also asked if he's had any communication with any members of Trump's team since yesterday when he made this announcement at Queen's Park at the legislature. And he said no, but he did indicate that he is planning on having a call this afternoon with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. And my understanding is that Lutnick is the one that reached out to Ford's team to ask for that phone call. And it is set to happen early afternoon. The two of them did speak last week. They've talked before. And that last time they talked, our understanding of that phone call was that Lutnick asked Ford to dial down the heat and to ease off some of these pressure tactics that Ontario and other provinces and Canada in general are taking in response to these tariffs. And Ford told Lutnick at that time that he has no intention of backing down. So we'll see what happens in the phone call this afternoon. But that's what we're hearing from Ford so far in response to Trump's response. And we know Ontario is planning on taking other measures, or already has, including pulling U.S. booze off the store shelves from the LCBO stores, and also banning U.S. companies from bidding on any Ontario government contracts is another measure they're taking. So at this point, Arthi, that's what we've heard from Ford. He's been busy in the last little bit doing these interviews with U.S. media, but our colleagues up at Queen's Park are hoping that he'll speak to Canadian reporters this afternoon as well, and we'll hear directly from him what his response is.
And certainly we've invited him on this program too, so hopefully we do get some more clarity and answers from the Ontario Premier as well. Thanks for this reporting, Megan.
You're welcome.
And of course, as we were speaking just then, the U.S. president has once again responded to the Ontario Premier Doug Ford's electricity surcharge. He posted this on Truth Social, saying, "Why would our country allow another country to supply us with electricity, even for a small area? Who made these decisions and why?" And he goes on to say, "And can you imagine Canada stooping so low as to use electricity that so affects the life of innocent people as a bargaining chip and threat? They will pay a financial price for this so big that it will be read about in history books for many years to come." Of course, incredibly important to point out here that Canada did not start this trade war, does not want this trade war. We have heard that multiple times from federal, provincial, municipal leaders as well. We know that Canada and the U.S. have had a long-standing trade partnership, the largest trade partners, in fact, with a shared border. And so when the U.S. president says Canada stooping so low as to use electricity that affects the life of innocent people as a bargaining chip, of course, it is somewhat contradictory and perhaps even ironic.